Hi, everybody. This is day 1826, and let's make sure that I'm on. This is August 1st, 2025. And let's go on and see. Yep. And it's 1,826 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And it has been so busy, y'all. So busy ever since we started looking at the forensics of the Walmart mass shooting case, as far as the weapon goes, the ammunition, the magazines, looking closely and getting really good insight from all of that. Absolutely. You know, the big push, not that Richard was exposing Fort Bliss and that he was forcibly removed and they took his life, and now we don't have his remains, and there's no, accountability for what happened after they continuously and severely retaliated against him unjustly. We've debunked all of that, spread all kinds of lies, even tampered with government records, with lies, absolute lies, interfered with his investigation, just on and on, retaliated against us, threatened us, searched our home without a warrant, and on and on, on and on. No, the concern is that the U.S. Army doesn't use AK-47s. Look, my husband, Richard's father, 30 years. I don't even know how many deployments. I have all the medals right there. I don't even know how many deployments. There were pallets of AK-47s, pallets of AK-47s during his deployments and training. Okay, I understand. Look, I know the go-to is A-Force, but the United States military has AK-47s. Sorry. They've got them. And we know they've got them. And so anyone telling us a Gold Star family, a veterans family, we have over 80 years of combined service. Don't tell us that the Army doesn't have AK-47s. They had pallets of them, pallets that weren't even open, that were still in the wrapper. So, you know, um, these AK-47 styled weapons were absolutely there. Do we have a history of smuggling? Do we have a history of theft from our military? 100%. I mean, President Trump called them out just on the exit of Afghanistan. It was very, very clear because he was saying, bring home our equipment. Even Senator Ted Cruz, who, he has a lot of problems, but even Senator Ted Cruz got this right. What happened to the night vision goggles? The night vision goggles that were our technology, that we had an edge over other armies because we had night vision goggles. They were all left there in Afghanistan. They were left there. Those are Senator Ted Cruz's words. He was he brought that to everyone's attention. How hard is it to put our night vision goggles on those big bad Air Force planes? They're big, they are big. They are big. You know why I know they're big? Because I have flown in them many times as Space A. As Space A. You can play basketball in some of those, have a basketball court in some of those planes. You mean you cannot, they could absolutely bring back our, first of all, our service members and then our equipment and our weapons and everything. They could bring them. That's what they do. And General Mealy is treasonous. He is a traitor. He left all of that over there. Why? He couldn't bring it back because it wasn't his to bring back anymore. That's my my um let's just say my suspicion was that they had already sold that equipment for their own pockets. They already had given it away, sold it, whatever, because they could have brought it back. Do we have a history in the news? Do I have to list them all? Do they then sell them in these for surplus, military grade, weapons, ammunition, everything surplus? Who supplied Patrick Crusius with his weapon, his ammunition, his tactical earmuffs? Who supplied it? Because his family, that's in El Paso, his family, the Mayellas, all of them, their side is, most of them, that they love illegal immigration. That's their side. That's where they profit. I've been saying this from the very beginning, that the illegal immigration is so bad for these people. Yes, criminals can come over. Yes, people with mental health can come over, and that's a real problem. But then when innocent people see it and they're being trafficked over, or they want a better life, and they take the risk because they hear all these stories and they come into the country, and then they're exploited. They're exploited. They're coming in, they're criminals. They have to live in fear. They have to get social security numbers that are not there, so that's becomes another crime, and the crimes just roll up, and they can't live free. They have to come over legally so that they're free. And this whole political group entity that pushed all this so that they could exploit these migrants. And then, of course, hundreds of thousands of children were trafficked. That's disgusting. And then, of course, cashing in on those that died through these funerals and the mortuary affairs and everything like that. But they absolutely, if that they're never satisfied. Their belly is never full. It's not enough for them to traffic hundreds of thousands of children. It's not enough for them to exploit and take advantage of these migrants. These illegal migrants, because those are the ones that can be taken advantage of. And then it's not enough for them to cash in on those that have died along the way, right? That's not enough for them either. Then you have the smuggle. It's not enough to even traffic the substances, right? And cash in on that. It's not enough that they do all these contracts for housing and emergency intake center, 10,000 beds that need all that. And then they mess up the child care. And then you have the hearts doing heart child care while confessing to the worst type of crimes against children and being protected after they've confessed to the worst type of crimes against children. And they're allowed to have Hearts Childcare LLC. No, that's not enough. Then they have to take advantage of our military, of the fuel, of the equipment, of the weapons, of the ammunition, of all of that. That's all taxpayer grand theft larceny of the taxpayer. That's what that is. And then they're never ever, their belly is never full because they're so evil. The evil belly is never full. That their greed surpasses anything that we can ever imagine. And they end up wanting death. It ends up death. It ends up, that's what it ends up. And you have individuals that have been sucked into it, easy money, I've got some debt, whatever, because these government operators that are compromised have taxed us to, well, unlawfully taxed us. It was never meant to be this way, right? I mean, look at the Federal Reserve Bank right now. They're charging us all this interest on our debt, billions and billions of dollars, billions and billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. They're a private bank, right? It never was meant to be that way. It was never meant to be tax on your income, on your work, that you have to work for so many months just to pay the government. No, they're not even supposed to be that big. If you ever read George Washington and what his view was for Washington, D.C., it was a self-sustaining capital. It was not going to be like a Versailles. It was not going to be monuments. It was going to be industry, bringing the South and the North together, which would end slavery. That's George Washington's hope for Washington, D.C. I think that was in 1774. He was a surveyor. New York was the first capital of the United States. So, so what's going on right now was never meant to be this grand theft larceny. That's what it is. And then they try to put a legalized stamp on it. And then they don't even do it legally. Then they still smuggle. Then they still criminal traffic. And then you have a hero like Richard that calls them out. And what do? They try to set him up. Bob Moore tried to set him up with Chavira Auto Group. They try to set him up. They have law enforcement. Look, you've got Jesus Melendez. You've got Jose Sanchez. You've got Gustavo Sanchez. You've got Manny Chavira. You've got Marlon Soto. You've got Tavita Nusa. You've got Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr. You've got George Torres. These are all law enforcement, FBI, police, and they are absolutely compromised. They're absolutely up to no good. Michael Cordero, absolutely up to no good. Even though in what they do admit that the Walmart mass shooting, a crime scene, was not even secured for over 2 days, over 48 hours. It was not even secured. You could just go there, tamper with it, whatever. And that Julio Cordero was overheard saying that this, no way could no way could Patrick Crusius, with his mental problems. Look, he has mental problems. He has physical problems. He couldn't even pass kindergarten. I don't even think it's very hard for me to believe that he could even drive that far for that long. No way. I just don't believe it. And he had his El Paso family, and they were, look, if he was what they said, they would all be screaming, "Oh yeah, he's so bad." But they didn't. They kept silent. They kept silent. They hid. Nothing to see here. And they were in the DA's office, in the FBI's office, in the in the Walmart cybersecurity, at Texas Tech University Health Science Center that had a big part to play in all of this because they're the biggest donor to El Paso Matters, Bob Moore, who's part of this, and his wife, Kathleen Gannon, who just has been defunded. It was just notified today. It's a done deal. She's been defunded, which plays into UTEP. And you have Nadal Bayim. And they're all connected through family to Willie Moya, big time cartel, to Arturo Alba, big time cartel. Media is super important in this whole cartel network because they interfere in criminal cases. They control the narrative to the people that would want to demand justice. But there's no demand for justice if they don't know or they're being told lies, like in Richard's case, where they even put out documents of lies. And it has been a huge undertaking to collect the evidence for the truth and then file it, submit it. And that's why on it's so overwhelming, the evidence against this criminal network, that on January 24th, 2025, Richard was designated killed in the line of duty, which confirmed that he was murdered in the line of duty on Fort Bliss because of the other paperwork that we have from April 24th, 2024, and other paper and the evidence. But it confirmed everything for doing the criminal reporting. Sorry, the criminal trafficking. Nadal Baim was somebody. They told us he was nobody. He's a Palestinian arms dealer. A Palestinian arms dealer and the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in Richard's chain of command, but not just any Richard's command, but not just anybody. He was G3. He was operations. And think about it. Where's Richard's remains? Well, why don't we ask Solomone Nusa? Why don't we ask Mario Raskin Ortiz? Because those are the mortuary guys. Those are the medical examiners or mortuary operations. They're the one that transfers the bodies. And Solomone Nusa is the brother of a prime suspect in the murder of Richard, CID agent Tavita Nusa, who had his badge terminated in 2021 and is family to uh, Leilani Hart, who's the mother of Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart, who are the Harts that she confessed to the worst type of crimes against children, the worst type, ongoing for decades. And now Nadal Baim is being sued by Western Frontier Trading. Why? Because he is a Palestinian arms dealer and he worked for Western Frontier Trading doing contracts in El Paso. And he's up to no good. And his son in law is in Richard's command, a lieutenant colonel. Is there, you know, look, read the leaves. You want the tea? You want the tea leaves in front of you? We're giving you the tea leaves. It doesn't take a brain to figure out that Patrick Crusius has a broken brain, as Joe Spencer said. That he could not possibly do this, as we heard that Julio Cordero of the Poison Ponds victory that he had almost to the top, not quite to the top. Maybe this Poison Ponds 2.0. He was 1.0. Maybe we could be 2.0 and get the top. I think that that's where it's going now because NPR now just defunded. And let me tell you, those funds were going to El Paso Matters. The funding was being funneled through, laundered through, funneled through KTEP into El Paso Matters because of sharing content. Now, I just gave you just a little bit of information that we have collected, just the very tip of the iceberg. But our evidence is mountainous. My friend called it robust, a robust mountain of evidence. And we presented that. And that's why, even without Richard's remains, they had to declare him murdered in the line of duty on Fort Bliss. And now we want his remains and we want accountability because we've already done the hard work of 5 years of collecting that robust mountain of evidence that debunked all of the lies that they put out, even in the tampered paperwork. Even in, look, you got the CID is compromised. You've got the director of DPS compromised. He's so compromised. You've got the FBI compromised. You've got the DA's office compromised. You've got the federal courthouse compromised. You've got the MAG court compromised. And you've got the medical examiner's office. He's illegal. That's compromised. You've got Fort Bliss totally compromised. And people are saying, no, it's not possible that they were smuggling weapons or that Patrick Crusius, with all of his very, very high level connections, could not source his, and these are cheap people too. They want all the money themselves. They're so greedy. If they can make the government pay, because let me tell you this, in Texas, once you're 21 and you have these mental health conditions, this autism, this special needs, you lose a lot of funding when you turn 22. Patrick Crusius was 21. What? His family didn't want to take care of him? because he needed taken care of. You saw that very clearly. He was blind without his glasses. He was blind. He he didn't remember anything. I mean, I don't even think that he drove normally because he didn't even know like his vehicle. He didn't know his vehicle. You're talking about a young 21-year-old man doesn't know his vehicle? Are you kidding me? And and didn't know who had the title to it? Are you kidding me? A young 21-year-old male that's supposed to know all about these weapons but didn't know one a thing about it, was supposed to know everything about this manifesto, didn't know anything about, oh yeah, 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 that's my, oh yeah, I put that on 4chan. 4chan, you know, are you kidding me? And it went up on 8chan, not 4chan. He couldn't even get that right. And, so it is not me saying, no way it's not possible. It is absolute professionals that are saying that. And this whole thing of the open part of the gun, um, let me go look at that again because that was so interesting. We got that information yesterday, and we're and I'm well, we're a packing family. We're a packing family. Um, uh, gosh, but this is the open chamber that they that does automatically. You can put it there manually, or you can do it automatic, and it's like your gun can't fire, or you don't have any more ammunition, and so it's a safety. And it looks like in those pictures that it's open. It looks like it's open. And I went through and looked, and I'm like, it looks like it's open. And then you have um, this black magazine. You have this montage, because when you look at it carefully, then you know where they've cut. They've cut, they've cut, they've cut. So it's this montage that they've cut. He has a whole different gait when he's walking and everything, like this whole eh, surety. Then when he gets into the Walmart, he's skinnier. He walks with his feet out, like more like a duck, kind of, a whole different walk. And he walks in with the FDE, flat, what is it? Flat something earth color, which is tan, a tan colored magazine, right? And he walks in with that. The whole video that they show in the outside, when did he change that out? And why would he even have no ammunition in his black magazine? Because this is only a few seconds after he takes it out of the trunk. Nothing. It all is stinky, y'all. It's all stinky, piled and piled and piled. How much stink do we need? It's piled and piled and piled and piled. There's so much stinky evidence that shows that this was an orchestrated, that he had help, and if he had help, that he absolutely had to source his weapon and his ammunition from somewhere. And these people are greedy, they're cartel, they're smugglers, they're traffickers. And so did they source that weapon, those bullets? And he said hollow point, but the information we got that we reported in February of 2024, the information we got was that that's a long time ago, right? A long time ago, we got information that they were brown tip bullets. There's been talk about this green tip bullet, but th- are that the bullets were brown tip bullets. Those are special forces, they're armor piercing, you know, they are like executionary kind of bullets. Where did they get those from? These are all military grade, and please don't write again the ridiculousness that our military does not have AK-47s. It is just the most ridiculous thing because it's all over. It's all over. It's all over. And I have the best source. I have a 30-year veteran with all our veteran friends, pallets of AK-47s in wrappers. So don't say, oh, and they're not in the arms room and this and that. Our military on Fort Bliss was so breached, and it was breached by cartel operatives. It was breached by criminals. Criminals. You had a 14-year-old girl living in the barracks. And let me tell you, that's the only one that got, you know, the news covered because they could not cover it. For 4 months, she was living in the barracks for 4 months with her teddy bear. I'm sure she had a teddy bear. And she was being used and abused and sold. She was being monetized in our barracks, compromising our soldiers. Because let me tell you, they film all of that. And when those soldiers, might have a conscience and might want to become a whistleblower, they bring out those little films and they say, this was a 14-year-old. This was a 14-year-old. And when you have been put through months, daily, vile and vulgar attacks, harassment by people that are totally connected with Fort Bliss, and in my case, the PAO, the CAO, the casualty affairs officer, the mortuary affairs, the PAO like Nick Nuffinger, and Allie Payne. And, when you have been subjected to that kind of vile, and everything that they send you has this vile and vulgar sexual theme to it, okay? They're just sick in the head. They are just sick in the head people. And it tells you that they're worse than that. They're part of a criminal group, and this is an operation, and they use the sickest thing they have in their head to intimidate you, to make you go away, to make your life miserable so you stop. So that they can get on with their grand theft larceny and criminal activity and criminal trafficking that is billions of dollars, be it substances, be it children, be it organs, be it weapons, be it whatever, be it funeral, be it bodies. Look, bodies add VA, IDS, Pablo, death benefits, insurance payouts, US aid payouts. They were turning all of the goodness of the United States, the goodness of the taxpayer that wants to help people, and they were turning that into a cartel network business plan. including contracts, everything. And that is why you had Dan Bongino say, "Oh my gosh, I'll never be the same again," because the the level of crime, and I didn't need Dan Bongino to tell me that because we've been living it for 5 years. We've been collecting evidence. We've been identifying crime, documenting the crime, filing the crime for 5 years, over 5 years. And now, and not just for our son's case, but the cases that intertwine with it, like the Walmart mass shooting. And I can tell you right now, Veronica Escobar is compromised. I can tell you because we have been uh, collecting, documenting, filing. And there is no doubt in my mind that Richard was reporting on the criminal trafficking and he was on the side of the Trump administration at the time, who was trying to get the border under control. And what Richard was reporting was in the favor of President Trump's administration and his policies. And these people are so triggered because they have this criminal network and they want to keep it that way. And Richard got in the way of that. And their real aim was to stop President Trump's administration, to stop President Trump, sabotage him, and interfere in the election. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. And Richard was in the way, and they targeted him. And they orchestrated, and this is not my words, this is all the other professionals that we have collected evidence on, that the crime scene was staged. And we have the birth certificates, we have death certificates, we have marriage certificates, we have the fraud, we've reported the fraud, all, so we have the hard evidence, we have the CCTV footage, we have the confessions, we've got it. And so what we've been doing is putting out the real story when the likes of Bob Moore have been trying to hypnotize the rest of the people and trying to hypnotize even the criminals by saying, "Oh, we've got to stay this way, right? We got to stay this way." I'm telling you, it's not a nice life to live as a criminal. So it is a hard question, but it is a needed question. Where were the equipment and weapons and ammunition that Patrick Crusius used in the videos? He's on video. He's in the interrogation room. Where was it sourced? And who helped him? And I think that that's coming out because, of course, Ernest Christopher Grant was arrested. I think that's very interesting. I'm sure that there's plea deals going on for information. I'm sure he I'm sure, like El Mayo was arrested. El Chapo's son was arrested. We know for sure they're making plea deals. We know for sure they're talking. Not more than talking, they're advertising. They're talking. They're advertising by putting up signs naming names and naming their activities. And we posted that, and I need to post it again. So I'm sure Ernest Christopher Grant is doing that. It's no coincidence that Chris Cuomo is online saying, I was wrong. I was wrong about Trump. I was wrong. And I have to admit that I'm wrong. And if you say you're never wrong, then you're wrong because we've all been wrong. I mean, he's online saying that because he's such a big criminal with Ernest Christopher Grant in the hospital there, remember? And what Ernest Christopher Grant did to me is unforgivable because the level of lie of his lie was so damaging, so damaging. Is And I can't even repeat him. I'm not going to give him any time in repeating the narrative of the inside of the Walmart because it's so false. It is absolutely false. There's no evidence of it at all. And yet the media were like mockingbirds with it. Blah, 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 blah. Christopher Grant, Christopher Grant, Christopher Grant, Christopher Grant, blah, 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 blah. Like and he's such a criminal. And he's been arrested. And um, I'm sure there's been some very interesting discussions with him. And now NPR defunded, thank God. Thank God. Because they were being used in El Paso, in the El Paso region. I can talk about that. They were being used to control the narratives, so, to interfere with criminal cases, and also to retaliate against whistleblowers to put out false news using Leilani Hart. And then, and even look, you've got UTEP president even advertising for Leilani Hart's business. I mean, they were just like big buddies, weren't they? And she was getting her mail at a strip joint. Leilani Hart was getting her mail at a strip joint. And remember the kids? They were being taken to strip joints and empty parking lots, never to be seen again. So these, uh, you know, goons, I guess you call them goons. I don't know what you would call them for Fort Bliss saying, "Oh, the military doesn't have AK-47s and, this would never happen." Are you kidding me? Do you not know what's going on? I think you need to go talk to Christopher Cuomo. Go talk to Chris Cuomo. He'll tell you. You're wrong. You're wrong. And if you say you're not wrong, then you're wrong. So, and if you want to know what's right, you come to these live streams because we're very careful. This is not for any money. We want our son's remains and we want accountability. And we've known a lot of things for a long time, but we've had to collect the evidence to back it up what we've said, what we've been saying. And we have enough evidence to say these things now. Where did Patrick Crusius get his stuff. He had major, major connections in El Paso. And they told you for years that it was random. He didn't know anybody. From Ernst and Young to Fort Bliss, he had connections through the FBI office, through Walmart cybersecurity, through DA's office, through the whole judicial system. He had connections through Texas Tech University Health Science Center, which works with Mario Raskin Ortiz. So thank you so much. God bless you. And thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Thank you so much for your prayer. And we're getting there. We're getting there, and it's all in God's timing. And I just want to say thank you so much for being so patient. Anicia, thank you so much. We can't thank you enough. Danielle, we can't thank you enough. And Christine, thank you so much for sticking with us for so long. It's huge. It's huge. It's much bigger than Iran Contra. This scandal, what's going on right now, it is so big. And the NPR thing is a big green flag to let you know that they are absolutely, the Trump administration is absolutely working behind the scenes, because you have to get rid of the false narrative that they feed the public, um, that really interferes with justice. These false stories, and uh, it really hurts the pursuit of justice. And so it, all our evidence, and we've even written letter and letter and letter, even to UTEP, we've written letters. And that was very interesting and gave us a lot of material. Um, but it proved that NPR needed to be defunded. That's what it proved. So they're up to no good. So thank you so much. God bless you. And Americans are so giving, that anybody that wants to do good quality programming will be able to get funding. But this coerced funding, um, and then they used it for evil. They used it for evil. No, that's okay. We needed to end it. So that's a good indication that things are happening behind the scenes, as well as the arrests that have been going on. So thank you. And also, and I just came out, what is that? Jack, I think Jack, the lawyer, or I'll talk about it tomorrow because I have to wrap my head around it. But he's being looked at, investigated. So that's just indications that things are really happening. And I just want to say thank you so much. God bless.